Alright, welcome to another episode of Hooked on Bass TV.
Today we are going to cover on how to approach new bodies of water.
Alright, so there are a few key points that we put together today and how we would fish a new body of water. The first being how to find a new body of water is Google Maps. That's always a clutch one. You just look, alright, here are all these bodies of water, and then you can pin them and then use your GPS to check them out. If you don't have that luxury, which some of you might not, what me and Tyler do a lot is we'll do that sometimes, but then most of the time we'll just get in the car, drive, and then you see a body of water, and that's where we find most of our productive bodies of water, is just from driving around from place to place, taking a few casts, maybe throwing something small, finesse, just to see if there are fish there. And sometimes if you want to, you know the name of the body of water, you can check on, say like whatever state you're in, Fish Finder, like NH Fish Finder, MA Fish Finder, whatever that is. It'll tell you if there's species. You can see the fishing reports, where the max and minimum depths are, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I mean, even in our last video, urban smallmouth fishing, that's what we did. We had an idea of where we were going, but we didn't know exactly what spot we were going to fish.
Yeah, we knew the river, like ballpark,
and we just kind of drove until I was like, hey, that looks like a good spot like down there. Let's go try it. And we did, and it ended up being really productive.
Yeah, it was very productive. We saw 2 hobos, which was great, and yeah, there's some nice smallmouth there, and they fight very well in the cold running water.
I want to talk about what to look for when you get to your body of water that you are going to fish. I like to look for, in particular, laydowns, trees that have fallen or are close to falling over the water.
Carry on. You were saying laydowns?
So yeah, laydowns. Those are probably one of the most recognizable things you'll find in a lake as to where fish will be. They offer shade, protection, and if the tree is in the water, it really offers a place for the bass to ambush bait fish and get their meal. But I also like looking for, if it's clear water, like looking for beds, like looking for drop-offs. That's always a good thing. If you have a fish finder, you can find drop-offs, ledges, anything like that in the deep water. And
even if it's clear enough, like at Forest Lake, you can see the drop-offs.
yeah, like his
Without a
like
fish finder.
you can see the drop-offs really clearly, and those are great places to start off fishing. And also, if there's spots with a lot of weeds, that's another great spot. There's offers protection and shade, just like laydowns. Also, bait fish gives the bass a chance to ambush them. And another thing is oxygen. It offers a lot of oxygen if they are in the weeds, which is why you'll find them a lot in the summer there, because the oxygen in the water goes down, so they tend to move towards weedy spots, sometimes deeper, sometimes not, depending on where you are. And those are really the main things I'll look for. That and docks too. Docks are always a great place.
Oh yeah, that's shade for days under docks. Another point to bring up is what to throw. In the new video, you'll see that. We were fishing a small branch of a very big river, and we knew there weren't going to be monster fish in there, so we weren't going to start off tossing a huge jerk bait with like 6 trebles on it that dives 10 feet. It was only like a foot and a half of water in most spots, and we knew there was going to be some smallmouth that weren't too big but decent sized. So we both started off with something small. Like I started throwing a MEPS number 4. You started throwing a weightless Senko, right? And what else?
Yeah,
And the popper right off the bat.
Yeah, I threw a weightless Senko and a popper off the bat.
And yeah, so it turns out that right off the bat, we knew that we couldn't really fish finesse that much in this running water. And what he thought right off the bat, he's like, hey, let me throw a popper because it's going to create the most disturbance. And that's what worked out the best by far. Nothing even came close. Clear water, if you're fishing a new body of water. Personally, my favorite thing is a drop shot rig. I like pretty long leaders on my drop shot, depending on water depth and clarity, but an ideal thing for me is almost a 2-foot leader all seasons. I like that. But I think Tyler, his go-to in clear water would be like a Texas rig creature bait, like a lizard or a brush hog, right?
Yeah.
And I'd say for dirty water, my favorite bait would probably be, I mean, I still like to stay with finesse in dirty water because people say that it doesn't work, but it does. And we've proved that to ourselves at least. But I like lipless crankbaits with vibrant colors like chartreuse, light yellow, light blues, anything like that. And yeah, that all depends on the time of year as well, because you might want to toss early spring. You might want to toss like a red lipless crankbait to imitate a crawfish. But later on in the season, you might want to throw something a little like darker or more of an orange brown, because that might imitate them better. But you know, match the hatch. If there's shad busting everywhere, you don't want to throw a crawfish colored crankbait. But if there's no shad, you might want to throw something like a bluegill or crawfish colored. Don't stay in your comfort zone when fishing a new body of water, because like I'm probably the worst topwater fisherman known to this planet, and I caught 4 smallmouth in the last 2 days on topwater because Tyler was throwing a popper and it was pretty successful. So I tossed that on and it worked well for me. And the same goes with fishing here and at Forest Lake, because I had never tried a drop shot before and I was like really skeptical, and I just heard so much about it and how great it was. And one day I was like, alright, I'm just going to try it, because it was clear skies and it was just perfect conditions for it. So I started throwing that, and that is now by far my favorite. Like that's my go-to. Especially clear water lakes and ponds. But I'd say out of any bait, that's that or like a watermelon lizard. One of those has to be my go-to.
Yeah, and don't get discouraged if you don't catch a fish your first time going to this new body of water, because all bodies of water are different. No matter what anybody says, it's going to be different. Even that same body of water will be different on different days. You could go out there in a day where it's sunny, clear skies, and you won't produce. Don't get discouraged about that. Go back on a day where it's overcast, cloudy, cold. Really just try fishing that body of water in all different conditions, and try and throw almost everything you have at some point. Don't really, cross it off your list yet about whether it's good or not. And it goes the same if you also kill it that first day there, because you could have just gotten lucky that day, or the conditions could have been a lot different than what they usually are. So there's a lot of factors when it comes to getting skunked or not catching a lot of fish on your first day there. So give it a few tries. Don't get discouraged. Don't be like, you know what, can't fish here, this isn't it. Give it a few tries. That's all it takes, because you know what, your 4th try there, you could throw the right bait that gets a 4 or 5 pounder on it. Like, you never know. I mean, there are a few ponds around here where you'll go and you won't catch a fish for like 4 or 5 days fishing it, and then you just throw something out of the ordinary there and you'll pull in like a 4 pounder. It's really crazy how it works.
Yeah, I'm going to build off that, because I remember I think I was 14 at the time, and I'd been into fishing my whole life, but I was really getting into it at this point, and right off my dock I saw this big bed, and one of the biggest bass I'd ever seen in my life at that point, because like I said, I would fish, but it would only really be at my house or anything like that. And I just kept throwing this jig right at it, and I could not catch it. So I tried almost everything. And this one bait that I rolled out, it was like a $2, I think it was a Storm Kickin' Shad from, I think I bought it at Kmart. And I overlooked it, and I was like, there's no way that will catch a fish. And then I fished that whole day, could not catch it. And the next day I was on a time crunch because I was going to the Red Sox. So I was like, you know, I'm just gonna throw it on, see what happens. First cast, I pitched it right out there, and the thing just absolutely smashed it. I reeled it in. It was my PB at the time. It was 6.2 pounds, which was unheard of for me, and I'd never been so happy in my life, and that was all off a $2 lure that I overlooked for a full day of fishing.
Yeah, I mean, that's similar things happened to me, but not to that extent. I was fishing up at Lake Conway, I believe it was 2 years ago, and at the time I was just getting into fishing really. I was just starting to learn like all the techniques and what to choose and like what to throw and stuff. And so this particular day, me, my dad, and my dad's friend rented kayaks, and we went out onto Lake Conway. And I was fishing what I thought would have caught me hundreds of fish. Like I had my rod set up. I was like, this is what I'm gonna catch. This is what everybody catches them on there. I wasn't getting any bites. And then I threw a jerk bait. I thought it was too big to catch a fish there, because any fish that I saw there was no bigger than a pound. And this jerk bait had 3 treble hooks. I think it dove to like 8 feet maybe. And I was just kind of fed up with the day. Tossed that on. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try this. First cast, throw it out right into the middle. I ended up catching, I think it was a 5.5 pounder. And I would have never expected to catch a fish on that. So don't really get discouraged if you don't catch a fish your first time at a body of water, because you just couldn't not be throwing the right things. You know, fish aren't textbook animals. It helps if you know the ways of the fish, but it's not guaranteed that they're all going to sit under a dock at a certain point of time. They're not all going to be in laydowns, you know. You're going to find some where they're in open water and they're doing things out of the ordinary.
That's huge. That came into play in the last 2 days when we were fishing at this this branch of the river, because we thought, all right, there's a deep pool, it's a little bit colder, the smallmouth are going to be there. We started off there, and then all of a sudden we decided to stick some cast into the current, and right there we just started pulling them in. And it was pretty unorthodox for smallmouth to not be in the calm pools, because that's where they like it. But where we had most of our luck is where you would typically not think that they are.
Yeah, I even said that to him earlier. I was like, you did. It's surprising. We threw, we probably cast into it. There was this one pool, I think both of us probably cast into it at least 100 times each.
Oh yeah.
And we didn't get a single bite there. He got a bite right on the edge, but
that was right where the current started.
Right where the current started. I mean, I got my 2 bites that I got. One of them I ended up catching, the other one came off. They were right dead center in the current, like spots where you never think the fish would be. And then the rest of them, I think, were all in strong current. Like
they were all in strong current up against a big retaining wall, probably 5 or 10 feet off it, almost all the way across the river from where we were fishing, but right where the bad heavy current started. Alright, well, thank you for watching this episode of Hooked on Bass TV.
Like, comment, subscribe, you know the deal. See you later.